Okay. Cool. All right. So we're being live streamed to YouTube. And we're just going over the Holocaust of Pesach. Cool. All right. So we're being live streamed to
that's really
to YouTube. And yeah.
Okay.
No, it's not.
No, it is. It's not.
Okay.
It's still live.
It's live on YouTube.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have to
Did we lose? Okay. We have everybody. Okay. So we're sorry. Oh no, it's not. Oh no, now it is. I don't know what's going on. Is it being streamed live to YouTube? Okay. Sorry. Not technological advance. I usually work with books.
No worries.
So going through the laws of the searching for chametz during Pesach, and this is according to the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. We're going to take a look at what it says in the Mishnah Berurah. We're going to take a look at what it says also in Rabbi David&Rivkah's book, as well as what it says by the Rambam in Mishnah Torah, and that is my goal for the next 2.5 hours. We'll see how
Sounds good.
to that goal I get. All right. On the evening before Passover, a search for leaven must be made immediately after nightfall. It is forbidden to begin a meal or any work 1.5 hour before nightfall. So the law is that you are supposed to do this all the night before. So I know that there are some stories of Hasidim who literally take the entire night of before Pesach, and they just straight through go and would search their entire house, do everything that we do in a month or longer in literally one evening. So we're being live streamed to YouTube, just so the people who just joined know. It is forbidden to begin a meal or any work 1 hour before nightfall. So the best time to do it is the day before Pesach actually happens. We start typically a long time before that, and then we go through and we check with a candle to make sure that there are nothing that we missed. So last year, me and my family, we actually found a lot that we missed when we went through the night before Pesach. Usually that's not the case. Usually there's not a lot we miss. But last Pesach was a little bit rougher. So, because my wife was 9 months pregnant last Pesach.
Yeah, that makes it difficult.
Yep. So we missed a lot of stuff for that. So the search should be made with only one wax candle, not by several twisted together, for then it becomes a torch. But if we have no wax candle, we may use a towel candle. So you have a wax candle. You don't want to use fast because there's a concern that you could potentially drip it on something, and then you could be concerned that it's going to light your place on fire. That's something I learned from the Mishnah Berurah as to why we use that. So, but we'll get into the Mishnah Berurah later. All the rooms into which leaven might have been lodged must be searched. If you have little children, everything needs to be searched. Even the cellars, garrets, stores, and woodsheds, all those vessels in which leaven has been kept should also be searched. Before the search is made, all these places should be carefully swept and cleansed from leaven in order to facilitate the ritual search, right? So before you actually do the ritual search, it says that you should clean it. So that's what we do for the next one. A stall in which the cattle are fed with grain and a coop in which the fowl are fed with grain do not require searching. For in the first place, it is likely that the grain did not become leavened. And if it did become leavened, it is possible that all of it has been eaten and none has been left. However, if leavened grain has been put there and there is only a single uncertainty, whether all of it has been eaten up, we do not rely on this possibility and a search is required. Okay. So another thing that was sort of came up with a joke when Rivkah and I were talking about this last night. She goes, "We're getting chickens. That's it. We're going to have chickens, and we don't have to worry about the search." Unfortunately, Kitzer Shulchan Aruch says that if there's only one single uncertainty, that is, for the places likely the grain did not become leavened, and if it did become leavened, it is possible that all of it has been eaten. So that only goes to, like, seeds that you would feed chickens. So I think one of the people who said they wanted to see this is indeed a farmer. So the actual grain that you feed chickens, there's not an issue. But if you were to feed them bread, it would be more of an issue. And the chickens would not suffice. Did you hear that, sweetheart? Okay. If it's for certain leaven like bread, then the chickens don't count according to Kitzer Shulchan Aruch. Every nook and cranny of all places must be searched with the utmost care. We must also search the pockets of our garments as well as those of our children's garments, as leaven is at times placed therein. And the following morning, when the leaven is burnt, they should be thoroughly shaken out. So you can do this just by shaking them out or by washing them, probably. If you put them into a washer, that should take care of it. You just wash them with the pockets out. That should probably take care of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, pretty much.
So all of the clothes need to be washed before Pesach. Or dry cleaned, if you can't wash them. The rooms which are sold to non-Jews before Passover, together with the leaven they contain, must be searched in the evening, inasmuch as the sale will not be consummated before the following morning. So the sale doesn't go in until the day of burning of the chametz. Before beginning the search, we say the benediction, who has sanctified us with his commandments and hath commanded us concerning the clearing out of the leaven. So you can get one of those little booklets and you can go through your house and it gives you all the prayers to say and when to say them. Although we do not yet remove the leaven, nevertheless, since after the search we annul the leaven unknown to us, this benediction refers to such leaven. We are not allowed to make any interruption between the benediction and the beginning of the search. It is well not to make an interruption until the search is completed, excepting for that which relates to the search. One benediction is sufficient for the search of many houses. So another thing that we do is we wrap the leaven. We buy special pieces of leaven, so we have at least the required 10, which I think we'll get into with Mishnah Berurah. We'll have 10 pieces of leaven. We'll wrap them in tinfoil. We'll take pictures as to where they are, and we will have the kids go through and search for them and make sure that we didn't forget where we put them, so that it doesn't dirty the rest of the house.
Sounds good.
And if you have multiple houses, then one benediction serves for all houses that you have. Before making a search, it is customary to deposit some crumbs of bread in the places where the searcher will find them, because should no leaven be found, the benediction will have been said in vain. Oh, so it does get into what I just talked about. But certainly, if we do not make a proper search for leaven, put simply, gather up these crumbs, we do not thereby fulfill the commandment of searching, and the benediction has been pronounced in vain. So it has to be an actual real search, but you also put out crumbs to make sure that you find something. So there's also a real search.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
I exit all the time, sorry. Before making a search, we put away in a safe place all of our leaven, whether it be for our use or for sale. We likewise put away in a safe place the leaven we have found in the search. First, we carefully wrap it up, then we put it in a safe place where it can be easily noticed in the morning, so that we may be sure to burn it. We must nullify the leaven immediately after the search. The real nullification is our firm resolve to consider all leaven in our domain as non-existent, entirely valueless, and compared to dust, and as something for which we have absolutely no use. Our sages have furthermore ordained that we must express these thoughts by saying the formula kal chamira, all leaven, etc. If we do not understand the Aramaic words in which this formula is written, We are to say it in any language we understand best. So if you don't understand the Aramaic, you can say it in English. Hopefully you can find one that has an English translation. And also there's this idea of burning the chametz the day of Erev Pesach before a certain time. I'm sure we'll get into that later. If we wish to store fruit, wood, or other articles in a room, which must be searched for leaven before Passover, but no search would then be possible on account of the stored articles, then a search should be made the night before it is turned into a storeroom, in the same manner as it is made on the night of the 14th day of Nisan, even if there is yet ample time before Passover, and even if this is immediately after the Passover that has passed. If, however, by inadvertence, we have neglected to make the search before transforming it into a storeroom, then if we intend to remove the articles before the time the search will be due, we need not trouble ourselves to remove them now to search the room. But if we intend to remove the articles during the week of Passover, we must remove them and search the room now, even if it involves great trouble and entails a loss of money. So this gets into a raging debate in our house about whether or not you need to get peeled vegetables. So the peeled vegetables issue would be something that would be important. Let's see.
Gotcha.
That would be important. So we want to think about the peeled vegetables aspect as well. This is like I said, this is a current debate in our house right now, whether we will have the peeled vegetables, which is a custom, but is a custom which makes halakhic sense to me, and which I think the Chabadniks are right, that this is the way it should be done. There is that. Although we have already nullified the leaven at night, after the search, we must nevertheless nullify it again in the morning after we have burnt it, including in that nullification all the leaven, and say the formula kal chamira. So this is what you say when you burn it as well. If we wish to store fruit, wood, I said this already. If we deposit the articles in a storeroom with the intention of not removing them until after Passover, then it depends on the time it takes place. If it is more than 30 days before Passover, we need not search a room, except to remove from there anything that is positively leaven, and the formula of nullification recited at the proper time will also cover that room. If, however, it is within 30 days before Passover, we must search a room now, since the laws of Passover are expounded 30 days before Passover, which is what we're doing right now. Even if we have inadvertently neglected to make the search, we must empty the storeroom and make the search the night immediately after we have become aware of the neglect. So this is Kol Moed on Pesach, that you can also destroy. I believe you can destroy. Oh no, you can't, because it belongs to the goy. That's interesting. Interesting. I guess you made the search and then put it in a place where the goy would have it if you sell it. If we store unleavened wheat in a silo, but later the wheat at the bottom and at the side of the silo become leavened because of the dampness, then even if we have stored it there within the 30 days, we need not empty the silo on the night of the 14th of Nisan in order to search it. For inasmuch as we have stored it away in a permissible manner, the recital of the nullification will suffice. There's a divergence of opinion concerning a case where some leavened wheat is found there, and in such an event, we must consult a competent rabbi. During the 30 days before Passover, we must not throw any grain to fowls in a moist place, lest we forget to clear them away. Now, this is interesting. I know that Mishnah Berurah probably disagrees with this one, which is why it's interesting to me. Throw any grain to fowls in a moist place, lest we forget to clear them away. I guess if it's in a house, but if it's outside, I think it would be okay. So, so it seems like there's a divergence of opinion there, because as we're going to get, as you see, if we get into the Mishnah Berurah today, it will be really quite interesting what he has to say there, because he seems to approve throwing it to the birds and actually says that this is one of the ways that you can get rid of it. Before starting on a journey, we should appoint an agent to search and to nullify our leaven, and we must tell him expressly that he is appointed as our agent both to make the search and the nullification. The agent must also mention the name of the owner in the formula, thus the leaven of so-and-so, naming the person. Nevertheless, wherever we happen to be, we ourselves must also nullify the leaven, which is on our premises on the morning of the day before Passover. So if we go on a trip and you come back, like this happens pretty frequently in the Jewish world, where if you go and you visit your in-laws, say for the first days of Pesach, and you come back to your own house for the second days of Pesach, so you make a journey and you do whatever, or you come back to you come back to your place for the first day, you're at yours for the first days of Pesach, and then go off to your family for the second days of Pesach. Either way, you got to nullify it. Even if you're traveling somewhere else at the time where your nullification of Pesach happens. We're going to be traveling pretty close before Pesach this year, so that should be interesting. But I think we'll be back in time for the nullification. That's my goal. If we find leaven in our house during Kol Hamed, we should take it out and burn it. Okay, so he does say that you should take it out and burn it. This is the Kitzur of Shulchan Aruch. And if it is a quantity the size of an olive, we should first pronounce benediction al biur chametz concerning removing of leaven. If we find a leaven during the first 2 days of the festival, or on the Sabbath of Kol Moed, or on a Sabbath which occurs on a day before Passover, when the chametz may not be handled because it is being muksa, we should cover it with a vessel until the conclusion of the festival or of the Sabbath, and then burn it. If we find the leaven during the last 2 days of Pesach, we should burn it at the conclusion of the festival without pronouncing the benediction, even though its quantity is more than the size of an olive. This happened to us on the last day of Pesach. Last year. It's kind of a funny story. My wife had a we have a little room, right? So she was 9 months pregnant, so she wasn't able to search like she usually does. I mean, she's doing a great job right now searching. She's begun an absolute wonderful job on the bathroom right now, and also the kitchen. So we're doing our kitchen first. In previous years, we did every other room before the kitchen and in the kitchen last. This year, we're doing the kitchen first. Makes much more sense. So that's what we're doing right now. The kitchen and the bathroom. But we're working on that. So we're going through that. But last year, my 2-year-old daughter, she's now 2, she would sit next to a drawer, and unbeknownst to us, she would put chametz in there. And so we looked through, we thought we had searched out the entire kitchen, and sure enough, on the last day of Pesach, we pull out that drawer for, I forget, whatever reason, maybe we're looking for a wine opener or something, and we see chametz, and we're like, oi! So we're gonna do a better job of that this year, but it does happen from time to time. It was after Pesach?
No, we didn't know that.
Oh, it was after Pesach, so we never knew about it.
Well, I have a question.
Yeah.
In my situation, because I have Gentiles living with me, how does this work? Because I know I can search for chametz with my daughter, who's in the process of converting, and so is my grandson. But he's like 1.5. But as far as there's only so much I can do, because there's 2 Gentiles, so they're gonna have their chametz regardless what I do. So how do I do this?
So it's the same thing of being sealed off chametz, selling your chametz, sealing your chametz and putting it into a storage container. So if we were to sell chametz, to a goy. So we in our house we try to eat as much of it as we possibly can. We try to eat as much of it as we possibly can and sell next to nothing. Really, we sell like things that are absorbed into our domestic dishes or whatever. That's what we try to sell, right? So I'm strict in that, and my wife, it drives her crazy, but I'm really strict in that. So we do that. So if you were to sell chametz, you could tape up a drawer, like a cabinet, and say this is for the goy. And in theory, when you do the sale through like Chabad or something along those lines, when you do the sale of chametz to a rabbi, a proficient rabbi, because it's really quite detailed halakha. It's not just a simple thing of here, can you buy my chametz? It's like this whole complicated thing. And so if you could talk to a rabbi, like a Chabad rabbi or something, and see how he could sell the chametz to the goyim who live with you, you could put all their chametz into one spot, and that belongs to them, and it no longer belongs to you, and they could technically use it whenever they want.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay. The issue of being in the same house makes things a little bit more difficult, but
Yeah.
but we'd have to take a look at that. You'd have to really ask a rabbi, because I mean that's kind of a sticky situation.
Yeah, definitely.
Being in a house of somebody who's going to be eating chametz in the house.
Okay. Does pasta fall in the same thing category? Because it's kind of a grain in a way.
Oh
'Cause we
yeah,
have a lot of
pasta is definitely chametz.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
we got a lot of pasta.
Okay, so you start eating pasta now.
Gotcha.
So pasta is definitely chametz. Anything not marked OUP is chametz. So I guess we should maybe get into what is chametz as sort of getting into the beginning then.
Oh, there are some exceptions. That's not quite true with anything not marked OU. Pure olive oil, for example, is not.
Extra virgin pure virgin olive oil is kosher LePesach by its very existence.
Okay, so there are certain exceptions to the rule. So not every. I listened to a whole share about this on Friday. There are certain exceptions to the rule where.
Come join me then. Come join me.
You said if it's not marked OUP, it's not kosher LePesach. It's not necessarily true.
Okay.
Sure, you gotta be careful because you don't want to make things more difficult than it needs to be.
So this is my wife. She has a lenient opinion.
No, it's a Chabad rabbi listen to.
So my wife, who has a lenient opinion.
You have to look at CRC has a whole list of what's kosher LePesach without a certification.
You can do that. You can look up CRC, what is acceptable without a certification, or you can do it the strict way. So there are some things, according to the CRC, that are kosher for Passover that do not need kosher for Passover certification. Let me take a look, and I'll try to see if they have it on the app.
Depending on what the factory's doing.
I said I'm trying to look at the CRC kosher things that do not need a kosher certification. So you can go through and you can search through all these lists on OU kosher. There's apps for it, CRC, things along those lines, where you could have some leniencies where you could use items that aren't not necessarily marked OUP. Where is the list of things that do not need? My wife will find it for me and we'll get back into it. Because she wants to do the Okay, so Maxwell House coffee ground. Ground and whole being unflavored, not decaf. Acceptable when bearing OU even without special Passover certification. So must for milk must bear reliable Passover certification. Non-certified milk purchased before Passover may be used. It says must have certification.
Okay.
It's over. It's fine.
So those are two differing opinions, right? So the CRC says that if you get kosher milk before Passover, then it doesn't need the P next to it. It doesn't need that it's kosher certified for Pesach. If you get it on Pesach, you need to have it certified kosher for Pesach. I side on let's just get it OUP even before Pesach, because why not be stricter if we can?
Exactly.
Right.
Well, and also they might not live in they don't live in a Jewish community. They might not be able to find it.
Right. Some salts that are not iodized are kosher without a Pesach certification. Yeah. But pretty much anything made of the 5 grains, wheat, oat, barley, rye. What's the last one I'm missing? Spelt. Anything that has those in an ingredients is not kosher for Pesach.
Okay.
Right.
A lot of things with malt in them to sweeten them.
Malt drinks also are also forbidden. Now, if you're going to Ashkenazi route, which our family does, then you also take into consideration kitniot. So my wife says it doesn't apply to children, but if we don't have any in the house, how are our children ever going to know?
True.
So she says that they're allowed to buy it for them.
For children, it's sort of like egg matzah. There's a not for the Seder. For children, if they need to eat something and they don't want to eat anything else, you don't want them to starve. That's the
So my wife is coming in with all these leniencies. She's yelling into my ear. So I should say them because yes, these are true leniencies that you can get by. So like egg matzah, if you're infirm, if you have a stomach issue where something like that happens, like silica, with wheat, eating wheat matzah, then you can eat like egg matzah or something like that. But it's a really severe leniency. Like it's something that you don't really want to do. If you can at all avoid it. But there are these leniencies that you can do. All right. You're gonna show them what children do?
So this would need to be watched. But there's some hiding comments. My kids decide my 2-year-old. This is what I'm talking about. Watch your grandson.
This is being live streamed to YouTube too, but okay. Fair. No, I'm just saying, somewhat some aspect of professionalism. All right. So I guess we can get into we'll get into We'll get into the Mishnah Berurah because that's an Ashkenaz, and we just went through a Sephardic one. And that was a lot smaller. So we're getting to Mishnah Berurah, which is a lot longer. Okay. So before we get into the Rambam about searching for commands, we'll go into Mishnah Berurah. Get a little bit into that. Okay, so does everybody know what I mean when I'm saying what is kosher for Passover? The question on pasta and stuff like that got me thinking maybe we should really get into what is chametz and what is not. So what are some other things you think might be kosher for Pesach but are not sure? Like, you can ask me questions and I can answer them for you.
I mean, well, I know for the most part, I have to look at the OU symbol and the OUP symbol, so that helps
Okay.
with that. And I've kind of got a lot of
Anything
stuff
of
from
the 5 grains, yeah. Wheat,
Yeah.
oat, barley, rye. And if it has any ingredients at all, then it's definitely not kosher Pesach. For me, just getting certified kosher Pesach, if it has a certification saying an OUP or a CRCP, then you're pretty good. With the exception of kitnios, that is a bit more complicated of an issue. Are you looking to do kitnios?
Yeah,
Okay, so you're looking to eat kitnios or you're looking to avoid kitnios?
sorry.
Avoid kitnios? Okay, so kitnios is a bit more complicated. So kitnios is legumes, beans, corn, any corn syrup, right? So this makes things a lot more complicated for the Ashkenazim because corn syrup is in everything. When I say everything, I mean everything.
Yeah.
Unless you're me who doesn't buy stuff when I don't buy stuff when I will look on the label because it's totally bad. In our house, there's not a lot.
Okay. Corn syrup is in everything. So you really want to, if you're going to do the kitnios, that really takes strong dedication because kitnios is found in like lots of stuff. If it's corn or beans, you don't find beans in so many things, but corn, quinoa, is considered kitnios by some communities, in a community which has been having a large influence on me. The Chabad community considers quinoa kitnios, so you'd want to avoid quinoa as well. I'm trying to think of the other things of kitnios. This is usually I just try to avoid kitnios, and I just look on the package, low kitnios or something along those lines. No concern for kitnios on the package. So Coca-Cola, technically fine for Pesach if you're eating kitnios, but if you're not eating kitnios, you have to get the one with the yellow cap. You'll see it around this time. Coca-Cola has a yellow cap. That is non-kitnios Coca-Cola. It's made with pure cane sugar as opposed to corn syrup.
I didn't know what that was for. Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
Pepsi, I believe, does it as well. Puts a yellow cap on as well. So that's to avoid kitnios. That's the one of the main things for kitnios that you want to avoid. I believe dates are dates. No, dates are not kitnios. Peanuts, corn, peanuts, beans, green beans, any kind of beans,
Yeah.
rice, all kitnio. Chickpeas are kitniot as well. Quinoa, kitniot.
That's available. But yeah,
Quinoa is kitniot.
bring some. You gotta be honest. That's just too bad.
If you're going the way that I go, if you're following our page and going the way I go, in our house, quinoa is forbidden. It's kitniot. So yeah, so that pretty much solves the large version of that. Almost every wine that you see on the market that's kosher is kosher for Passover, except for the one that is questionably kosher to begin with, which is the Magen David. That is possibly not even kosher, but it is not kosher for Passover. So you want to check that one out.
Good to know.
So Magen David. Like, we don't accept Triangle K in our house, so we don't eat by Triangle K because there are some questions as to the standards that they hold matching the standards that we hold. So if you hold by like Reform status, Triangle K would be fine. But if you hold by any more of an Orthodox standard, Triangle K would not be okay. Okay. Getting into the Mishnah Berurah. Before one begins to search for chametz, he should recite the bracha, Sher Kedeshano b'mitzvotav, v'tzivano al biyor chametz, who has sanctified us with his mitzvos and commanded us regarding the elimination of chametz. If one began to search without having recited bracha, he should recite the bracha as long as he has not completed his search. One should take care not to speak between the bracha and the beginning of the search. It is best not to speak about extraneous matters until one completes the entire search, so that one makes sure to search all the places into which chametz is brought. So this is a complete searching of your house. It is supposed to be an actual search. The ritual search is not just a ritual search, but it is an actual, you are actually trying to see if you find chametz. As I mentioned, last year we actually did find chametz. And that is largely due because my wife is usually on top of this stuff, but she was 9 months pregnant last year. So it makes it a little hard to bend down in some places.
Yeah, the belly gets in the way.
Yeah. So that is something so it is that. Before he begins the search, so the bracha will be recited prior to the action, right? So you should always say the bracha before you do the action. Lighting candles, you light the candles and then you cover your eyes to and then say the bracha, and then when you take them away, they're lit. One way that you can deal with that is, and this is a way that we've dealt with in our house recently, is that you can have the husband turn on the lights after she makes the bracha if he has not yet accepted Shabbos or Yom Tov. So you can switch the lights on so that the bracha is on the lights that he switched on, not the lights that she lit. And that's an option as well. He should recite the bracha. Some say that it is best to wash one's hands beforehand. This is merely for purposes of cleanliness. Who has sanctified us with his mitzvahs and commanded us regarding elimination of chametz. Although one does not eliminate the chametz until the next day, nonetheless, since this search is for the purpose of the elimination, it is a component of the elimination process. We do not phrase bracha as al b'dichas chametz regarding the search for chametz, since the search is not the endpoint of the mitzvah. We also do not phrase bracha as al bittul chametz regarding nullification of chametz, because the essence of the nullification depends on the thoughts in one's heart, and we do not recite the brachas over matters accomplished in the heart. So there is a long-standing halakha that if you say something in your heart, it doesn't give me 1 second. It actually says, give me 1 second. So it doesn't matter what you say in your heart, it matters what you actually do, which matters more, right? So you can say, oh, I'm never going to see that person again, but you say it inside your heart, as long as you don't verbally state it, it doesn't count. Because matters of the heart don't take precedence. So, and you want to say it over the final aspect of the mitzvah, right? So when you're tying the tzitzis onto your garment, you do not say the mitzvah, you do not say the bracha at that time of tying it on. You say the mitzvah, you say it at the time of putting it on, because that's the final aspect of the mitzvah. You do not say a mitzvah, you do not say a bracha during the building of the sukkah, because the actual mitzvah endpoint of the mitzvah, what you're actually doing with the mitzvah, actually fulfilling the mitzvah, is a sitting in the mitzvah, not the building of the mitzvah. The building of the mitzvah is matirin. There's a debate about marriage as well, whether or not the marriage is simply a matirin to have children, or whether or not the actual mitzvah is to have children, like whether it's a matirin to have children, or whether it's an actual mitzvah in and of itself, whether getting married is a mitzvah in and of itself, or whether it's simply a matir or a permission to have children. In which case, I guess you would say the bracha at the point that you had children, and the marriage would be considered valid. Let's see, let's continue. If one phrased bracha as le biur to eliminate instead of the proper al biur regarding the elimination, he has fulfilled his obligation. So you don't have to say it specifically correct. Let's see. Hey, Rivkah, can you take my phone? They're having a debate and I want to answer them, and it's tempting, but I need to stay away from that debate for a second. I'm going to get my brain in that, and it's going to what I'm doing right now. Not on Facebook and WhatsApp. All right. The guidelines for whether the bracha for a particular mitzvah is phrased as al regarding, such as al bior chametz, regarding the elimination of chametz, or as li to hear the sound of the shofar, are subject to much debate among the Rishonim. See, Yaakov Levush here follows the view of the Ran and others who maintain that the bracha is phrased as regarding for a mitzvah that can be performed by an agent, and as to when it must be done by the individual. Since a homeowner can have an agent eliminate his chametz for him, the phrasing of regarding is apt. In all cases, either phrasing is acceptable, at least after the fact. So, whichever one you end up using, al bior chametz or le bior chametz, it's okay. That's a bit of a technical term, but maybe there's some people out there who are at that level. Think about the al and the li. You should recite the bracha as long as he has not completed his search. For as long as he is not yet done, it is still considered before the action. Okay, so that's why we turn on the lights. That's why I turn on the lights when my wife lights Shabbos lights or Kiddush lights, is because I finish the action by turning on the lights that we're going to eat by. If everyone has already completed the search, he should not recite the bracha now. Rather, he should recite the bracha on the next day at the time of the burning of the chametz. Since the bracha is phrased as an al biur chametz, regarding the elimination of chametz. Although we have already nullified the chametz the day before at the time of the search, he is nevertheless obligated by an enactment of chazal to burn it. Furthermore, at that time, i.e. at night, he in fact said only that he is nullifying any leaven that I have not seen. So the chametz that he had seen was not nullified. There are some acronym, however, who maintain that the bracha was instituted only for the time of the search. According to them, one should recite the bracha at the time of the burning without mentioning Hashem's name and kingship. It seems that if one wants to rely on the first view and recite the full bracha, we voice no objection against him, since he has upon whom to rely. So you can say it at the end, but without saying Hashem's name and kingship. You can also rely upon the first, that there are places in which you can do either. So the burning of the chametz is kind of a complicated thing. If you live in a Jewish community, they'll be doing burning of chametz all over the place. If you're under cherem in a Jewish community, like we currently are, and ask not to go to any Jewish functions, then you need to burn the chametz yourself. So one of the things that we used to do is we used to collect the hafrashas challah. Does everybody, hafrashas challah means the separating of the challah, and we used to take it, we used to burn it at Pesach. We don't do that anymore, or before Pesach. We don't do that anymore for two reasons. One, that hafrashas challah is supposed to go to the Kohen, and by burning it, makes whatever vessel he burned it in no longer permissible to a Kohen. Or no longer permissible for you to use because it belongs to a Kohen. That piece of bread belongs to a Kohen. And also, so when we burn our own chametz, we would burn the chametz with the community, and it was fine. When we burn it by ourselves, we've realized, oh, this makes whatever utensil we're using really have a bit of a problem. So we just burn the chametz that we collect beforehand. And so we're going to be getting a little metal bucket and burning it in there. So, and of course, you want to be taking hafrashas challah off of whatever challah you make. So you need to take a portion of the challah and separate it for the Kohen whenever you make challah. Otherwise, it's not kosher challah. You burn it in the oven. Okay. And it's still okay, permissible for us to use, even though that belongs to the Kohen? Okay. So Rivkah says we can burn it in the oven. I don't know. I don't know how that works. She says every woman talks about it.
In the cinders, it doesn't count.
Okay.
Pesach, so that's why we stopped doing it, because it was frozen. And
Okay.
And it was just so much dough. It was very hard to
Right.
break up and burn. You didn't have, if you had like a whole cylinder and burn.
If you burn it all the way into ashes. Okay.
You have to burn it to ashes.
Yeah, you have to burn it into ashes. So it can't be, can't just be burnt. It needs to be like burnt and crumbling. Like completely destroyed. Like in the pit of hell is what you're supposed to be throwing your sin into on a more hashkafic level, I guess. One should take care not to speak between the bracha and the beginning of the search. But the Evid, if one did speak of matters unrelated to the search, he must repeat the bracha, since he interrupted between the bracha and the action and the mitzvah. So anytime you say a bracha, you have to say it immediately preceding the action that you're going to do. And this is, I think, regarding mitzvahs. I don't know if it's regarding neyana, the with pleasures. I'm not sure. I'll have to get back to you on that. Rivkah, is there allowed to be a delay between a bracha on a pleasure as opposed to a mitzvah? We don't know. Okay. We'll have to get back to you on that one. Oh, it's tomorrow. It is best not to speak about extraneous matters until one completes the entire search. In this case, one need not repeat the barak if he spoke, since he had already begun the mitzvah. Matters necessary for the search may be spoken even letachila, since this is not considered an interruption at all. Right. So if I'm this is the same thing that actually goes for bread. For challah, if you wash and you're talking about I need salt, that doesn't count as interruption between the washing and the chamotzi. Kind of an interesting idea. 2. So this passage uses some further laws pertaining to barak over the search for chametz. A single baracha enables one to search a number of houses. If the homeowner wishes, he can position members of his household next to him when he recites the baracha, and they then disperse, with each person searching his own area while relying upon the baracha recited by the homeowner. Rama's comment is customary to put down pieces of chametz in a place where they will be found by the one performing the search, so that his baraka should not be in vain. Nonetheless, if none was put down, it is not crucial, since everyone's intent in conjunction with the baraka is to eliminate chametz if it is found. And he cites a kobo there. Any questions so far from the people who've joined us on Zoom?
Yep, you're good to go.
Okay. If a single baraka enables one to search a number of houses, the walk from one house to the next is not considered an interruption. See Chaya Adam, who writes that if one searches his house and his store is in a different courtyard, then he must repeat the baraka before searching the store. However, I found in Hoch Yosef and Maimar Mordechai that they maintain that it is all one mitzvah, for one is obligated to go and search all places that have chametz. It therefore cannot be said that walking is considered an interruption here. So the Mishnah Berurah, the Chofetz Chaim who put together the Mishnah Berurah, he actually holds that you can search both your store as well as your house for chametz. So, and it is not considered an interruption. But if you go by the Shulchan Aruch, which allows kitniot, then you would have to say that the place at which you work requires a different brocha and a different searching. Just something to think about when if you convert and which side you're going by, which side you're holding by, because a lot of people that I'm talking to didn't grow up with a tradition, but are sort of learning customs as they go along, and the communities that you move to and become a part of. Sephardim have some niceties, but Sephardim also have some strictures as well. He can position members of his household. The same applies to someone else who is not a household member. And Shulchan Aruch is merely describing the typical circumstances as we find in the Gemara, Pesachim 4b, that there were places where people would be hired to perform the search. At any rate, though, the homeowner should assist in the matter, since a mitzvah performed on one's own is greater than that performed through an agent. Now, strictly speaking, one may rely even on women, slaves, not our non-Jewish maids, or children to perform the search. Nevertheless, l'tachila, it is proper to rely only upon men who are free, i.e. not slaves and who have reached the age of obligation and mitzvahs, i.e. 13 years of age and above. This is because a proper search involves great effort, and there is concern that they may be lazy and not search properly. Acronym. So, in our house, I am the one who does the search. Rivka does a lot of the cleaning beforehand, but I also do the search. So I say the brocha and do the search for myself. But it says that you can rely upon women, though ideally you should do the search yourself. So that's what we do because we have such a small house that I can do it. You can also get cleaning services as well, which can clean your house for you, but they can't do the search for you. So you have to go back behind the cleaning services and then be able to go and search. So we were looking at a deep clean for our apartment, probably cost somewhere close to $400. So we're praying for that. Right? So something important to know, it is only rabbinic law that requires a search, since by biblical law, nullification of the chametz is sufficient. The same rabbinic law mandates that these people are to be trusted with regard to its performance. Had the search been required by biblical law, these people would not have been trusted, as children are not trusted at all with regard to biblical requirements. Women and slaves are generally trusted with regard to biblical requirements that they are qualified to perform. Example, if they offer meat and say that they slaughtered the animal, they are trusted. But the search for chametz would have been an exception because of the strenuous effort it requires. So it's interesting, women are actually allowed to check, but that's a whole other story. but typically, I believe it's in the Mishnah Torah, says that women do not shecht because women shechting, they might like pass out while they're shechting, and then it might be disqualified or something from the blood. It's just not a job that you would typically think of as something that a woman would do. But in a case of necessity, you can rely upon a shecht animal. Am I being sexist? Maybe. Probably have some. Well.
No,
He can possession members of his household. Okay. Next, when he recites the baraka, so that they fulfill their need to recite the baraka through his baraka, and they answer amen to his baraka, right? So this is, again, the same idea of Shomea Kona. I believe we got into Shomea Kona as well with the Megillah reading, right? I went through the whole idea of what Shomea Kona is. So Shomea Kona, for those of you on YouTube who haven't not seen us before, and on Facebook, which this will eventually be posted to, Shomea Kona is the idea of hearing is like reading for the Megillah. And so hearing is also like saying in the case of this bracha. As long as you say amen and are included in the yotzi on that. With each person searching his own area while relying upon the baraka recited by the homeowner, the homeowner will not be searching at all, and he instructs another to perform the search. That other individual recites a baraka, for he is the homeowner's agent regarding the baraka as well. So you cannot dispatch an obligation. You cannot dispatch an obligation if you yourself do not have that obligation, right? So this comes in a big question with women with a lot of things. So can you, if you are not obligated to perform such and such a obligation, are you then able to dispatch somebody else's obligation? Are you able to then dispatch that person's obligation to do it, or say it? In this case, we're talking about the bracha for somebody else who is obligated. And the answer will be no, right? You have to be obligated in the bracha in order to do it for someone else. If they did not hear the baraka, then preferably they should not be sent to search. Nevertheless, it is difficult for the homeowner to complete the search on his own. He may ask another to assist him. That other person need not recite a baraka because the entire search is a single mitzvah, and the homeowner already recited a baraka for it. Since the agent is completing the homeowner's performances of the mitzvah, the homeowner's baraka is sufficient. All of this is against the view of Hoch Yaakov here, Shar Zion, who maintains the agent cannot rely on a homeowner's baraka, that an agent should therefore not be used. So he's actually saying that the stricter way of doing it is that you should do it yourself, but that's not the Mishnah rule. It is customary to put down pieces of chametz, that is, hard chametz that will not crumble, and in a location safe from children and mice. You get into a really big discussion in Talmud about mice taking a piece of chametz into a hole in the wall, and then there is what sounds like a scuffle, and then you hear another mouse come out. It doesn't have the chametz, and then whether or not that mouse has the chametz or doesn't have the chametz sort of gets into a bit of a discussion. And so you want to make sure that the mice in your house or the bugs in your house don't get the chametz before you can pick it up. So we always wrap it in a plastic wrapper that nothing can get into, and that inside of that is also aluminum, and that's our chametz that we're able to find. So we take an extra stricture to make sure that the chametz doesn't get taken away by a hungry animal. And we actually make it a nice game for the children. The children actually do find it. So he gives notes here. A child or mouse might take the piece from where it was put down to a place that was already searched. Thus, when one realizes that the piece is not in its place, you'll have to search all previously searched places over again. So as long as you know where the chametz is and you find it, you're good. If you cannot find it, that creates a problem.
Question.
1 second. My wife is asking me a halakha question. Okay. So nonetheless, if none was put down is not crucial, right? So if you don't want to risk the issue of not putting it down correctly, then you then you want to be very careful about that. Let's see. Then you can be careful about it and not put anything down. Raymond is disagreeing with this view, Maharai Breen, as there is no concern of the baraka being in vain. For that is a mitzvah to search for chametz and seek it out in case he finds some. But if he finds none, it is of no concern. Taz further writes that the baraka applies to the chametz. He will surely be eliminated on the next day, i.e. his leftover food. It is just that the process begins from today, i.e. the night of Erev Pesach, by way of the search, as mentioned earlier in chapter 431. This is the consensus of the Achronim in terms of the essential law. See, however, Hok Yaakov, who writes that it is nevertheless inadvisable to abolish a Jewish custom, and see further there for reasons he provided for the custom. The Arizal too records this custom and adds that one should put down 10 pieces. However, great care must be taken not to lose any of those pieces. See further Sharei Teshuvah. So one of the things that we take great care to do is, like I said, we put down the 10 pieces, we take pictures of where they're at, we note where they're at, we make sure that we put them down right before we have the kids going looking for them, and we put them in aluminum, and we wrap them in aluminum and then in plastic so that none of the crumbs get out and go on the floor. And we put specifically 10 pieces as the Arizal states. You want to be very careful so that you don't do that. Okay. Continuing on. Okay. We're going to continue in the laws of B'dikas Chametz. Did I miss one already? Let me see. No, I think I'm okay. All right. So now we're going to get into how you're supposed to do the search. Shulchan Aruch discusses which sources of illumination are acceptable for B'dikas Chametz, both when conducting the search at its proper time, i.e. on the night of the 14th of Nisan, as well as when it was delayed until the next day. Mishnah Runa Note 1 addresses an offshoot of this issue, the permissibility of conducting the search before the night of the 14th, whether during day or at night. The search must be done by candlelight and not by moonlight. If one transgressed and did not conduct the search on the night of the 14th, then when he conducts the search on the day of the 14th, he may not search by sunlight, but rather be by candlelight. The law for an aksadra, though, which is well illuminated, is that if one search if by sunlight is sufficient, the same applies opposite the skylight of a room. So you have a skylight or an exedra. An exedra is a something that has 3 walls but not a 4th. That's a good explanation for what an exedra is. And a roof. So you have access, ample light so you can see everything. So one of the reasons that you want to search by candlelight, they sell them at Judaica stores, and it's going to get into what kind of candle you're going to use. You want to use a wax candle, and you're going to want to be able to search into everything that is at least 3 to like every nook and cranny of your house. And so you're going to want to use a candlelight to look through and look in all the little holes. And so you're going to want to use a candle that you're not going to be afraid is going to burn down your house, so not like blowtorch or something like that, but like a little candle so that you're going to be able to see every place where there might be a little bit of chametz hiding that you might have missed in your cleaning of your house in the 30 days prior. The search must be done by candlelight, and specifically on the night of the 14th rather during the day, because people are generally at home at that time. Also, candlelight is most suitable for the search at that time, as opposed to during the day when the light is not as bright as at night. And the sages enacted that the search be specifically by candlelight because it enables one to search in holes and cracks as well. Right? So this is before, flashlights and things along those lines. So you search for candlelight and you look in all the holes and cracks, little places little kids or little mice could have gotten into. And you really want to search everything. Obviously, if you search during the day, you're going to think, oh, it's already illuminated. I don't really need to search that too much. I can see that there's nothing in it. But if you take a candle, you might be able to actually see what's in it. If one prematurely performed a search on the day of the 13th of Nisan by candlelight, he must repeat the search on the night of the 14th, in keeping with the enactment of the sages, right? So the sages said it had to happen on the 14th. It has to happen on the 14th. Let's see about that enactment. As mentioned earlier, one of the reasons the search is being done specifically at night is that candlelight is most effective at that time. Therefore, a search during the day should indeed be disqualified, since the effectiveness of the search was below the standard set by Chazal. Okay. Let's see here. Nevertheless, it appears in the case one should not recite the Baruch at night over the second search, since there are authorities who rule that after the fact one has fulfilled one's obligation of the first search. This is a view of Bir Hagra at the end of this chapter, Shar Hatzion. Mishnah here rules that in practice, since most authorities indicate that the search is not valid even after the fact, see Magen Avraham to Prima Gadam on Ho Yaakov Shulchan Aruch, one should repeat the search on the night of the 14th. However, due to the view of Bir Hagra, one should not recite a Baruch in accordance with the principle of Safach Baracha Lehachal. Doubt regarding barachas is treated leniently, meaning the baracha is not recited, so as to avoid a possible transgression of the prohibition against mentioning Hashem's name in vain. So you don't want to say 2 barachas back to back next to each other, because you might say a baracha in vain. So if you have a doubt as to whether or not it's a valid search, and there are some people who say that if you search from the 13th as a valid search, then you have an issue, right? However, one searched on the night of the 13th by candlelight, which is better than during the day, since at night candlelight is effective for the search, and he was meticulously careful not to bring in any more chametz. He does not need to repeat the search. This is the consensus of most acronym. One who wishes to be stringent and repeat the search should, in any event, not recite the bracha. So, an interesting thing that we're doing this year, right? So we're making our kitchen kosher LaPesach well in advance of actual Pesach. the idea to this is that we don't have that last minute rush before the Seder, so that my wife gets to rest and relax and enjoy her Seder as she desires. So what we're going to do is we're going to clean the kitchen beforehand, and we're going to be meticulous about how we cook our chametz. We're going to cook our chametz in an Instant Pot. And that is going to be the one area that we're going to really concentrate on as the only place from which chametz is coming out of. Really kind of a neat idea that we came up with this year. We hope that it saves a lot of stress going into Pesach at the last minute. Give me 1 second. I want to see what's going on with my family. Do you want me to help? All right. My wife needs me to move something so she can clean for Pesach. So, in action. Okay. So you guys get the idea of candlelight? Maybe I'm going too much into detail on this.
No, you're good.
Huh?
No, you're fine.
Okay. Initially, though, it's forbidden to postpone a search to the day of the 14th, as mentioned above, right? So if you do it by the Evid, you're okay by searching on the day of the 14th, but really, you should do it at night. We've done it even in like midnight. So yeah, so do it at night while it's dark with a candle. I think I'm getting white hair in my beard. I guess I'm really getting old. On the day of the 14th, he may not search by sunlight, but rather by candlelight, since by candlelight one is able to search well in nooks, holes, and cracks. So this is an absolute nightmare if you have little kids. If you have little kids, they will put them into every nook and cranny and hole and crack, and it's just an absolute nightmare. We take a toothbrush to our floor to get into the little nooks and crannies on our floor. Because you got to look there as well. An exadra, this is a place with 3 walls and a ceiling. It is well illuminated due to the foreside being completely open to the sunlight, right? So there's a little bit more leniency there. This is in keeping with several acronym. Magen Avram, who is more stringent, maintains it as a ceiling area that is completely open on all 4 sides. God is extremely well illuminated by sunlight. Even on a cloudy day, the daylight illumination of exadra is excellent. So the Magen Avraham says that the ceiling area is completely open on all 4 sides, not a walls area on 3 sides. So the Magen Avraham says that it's fine if you define it as like a chuppah, but if you define it as like an actual like structure, then that's a bit of an issue. All right, and with one search by sunlight. No, I said the exadra, right? Yeah. Okay, if one searched by sunlight, this too refers to one who transgressed and did not search on the night of the 14th, and is conducting the search on a day of the 14th. That for an exadra, which is well illuminated, there is no need for a candle, and sunlight is sufficient. The reason Shulchan Aruch used an expression of after the fact is because ideally the Exadra too should be searched on the night of the 14th. Try doing this with your car. That's really an exciting thing to do as well. That is, the search should not be postponed to the day of the 14th. This is surely the case according to the first reason mentioned in Mishnah Berurah, note 1. The search is to be performed specifically at night because that is when people are at home. The second reason mentioned in Mishnah Berurah there, candlelight is more effective at night, would seem to be irrelevant to an Exedra, which is very well lit by sunlight during the day. See, however, footnote P below. Mishnah Berurah means to clarify the meaning of the Hebrew word Arba in Shulchan Aruch. Okay, that doesn't help me at all. No. All right. The Gemara teaches a person who did not search at night and is searching during the day should search in the beginning of the morning. Due to the principle, the al-Latras perform mitzvos promptly. One should not eat before performing the search. Let's see about that. Just as one is not allowed to eat on the night of the 14th before conducting the search, see further. End of note. All right, so you don't want to eat and make a whole bunch of crumbs and then search. That might not be a good idea. So that's pretty logical, I would think. It is regarding whether it's permitted to search the Exadra on the day of the 13th by its light. Before the fact it is forbidden, one must wait rather until the night of the 14th. After the fact, though, it seems that there is no need to search a second time. See, however, Magen Avraham at the end of the chapter, who writes that one should nevertheless search at least one room again at night. See there. So obviously everything needs to be searched at night. Opposite the skylight of a room. A skylight is an opening in the middle of a roof, but the same applies opposite the windows and the walls. However, this is specifically when searching directly opposite the skylight or opposite the window, where it is well illuminated. This is not so to the sides, where although it is light there too, it does not compare to an Exadra. Furthermore, even directly opposite the window is acceptable only when it has no glass, but when it has glass, it is the same as at the sides of the window. Right, so if you had an open hole in your house, you could maybe search by that. I don't know how much of that really is important for us, but it's in the halakha here in the Mishnah Berurah. So, oh no, we lost somebody. Okay. I guess I have been on for an hour and a half. Should I stop here and then begin a second one on halakha 2? Yeah, I'll stop here and I'll restart again, just so that it's not too much for people to take in all at once. So let me stop for just a second and I'll restart it, okay?